and try to record it. I don't think she can hear me. I'd like to see if this can be recorded. Megan, can you unmute?
Yes, I'm recording.
It's being recorded?
Yes, it is.
Oh, fabulous. Okay, great. I'm sorry we didn't have time to have everyone's introductions, but we will have a nice Q&A time at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and share my presentation. Yeah, Anthony, did you want to say something briefly?
Just that people can introduce themselves via chat. Just say who you are via chat, maybe give contact information. That way we have a record of who attended and who you are.
That'd be great. If everyone could just say what organization with your contact in chat. Okay, I'm going to share now the presentation. It's always unnerving, these transitions. So I'm going to start from the beginning. Slideshow. Beginning. Okay, great. Can you all see this? Yes, great. Okay, let's go here. So just so you know, you can move things around. You can grab the different like our pictures and move them around. And so feel free to do that so you can see the full slideshow. Let's see here. It's not advancing, so this is not going to work. Let's try another plan. How to get this to go? Oh, there we go. Okay, wonderful. So we've introduced ourselves, and I want to show you our agenda for today. My name is Jill Shook. I did not introduce myself yet, but you'll be getting to know me as the facilitator today for this workshop as I go through this. So what are ADUs and their benefits for 5 minutes, who we are as an organization and our history with ADUs, a biblical example, we're faith-rooted, it's a really fun little example, and then what are we doing and how to make ADUs more affordable. That will be, oh goodness, it's advancing on its own. That's really hard for me. And then Grant Power, we'll have a guest speaker who's online with us, Lynn Tang, who is part of our ADU committee. And then Grant Power will give us an overview of how they're making ADUs affordable. Time for looking at state policies and resources, and then Q&A. So let's get started here. So I have to thank Len for some of his work in doing some of the initial slides on this. So ADUs are also known as granny flats, in-law units, tiny homes. In Colorado, I think they call them alley units, cottage homes. There's a lot of names for these. It's a second dwelling on a property, including a kitchen and a bathroom with a separate entrance from the primary home. And then junior ADUs must be entirely within the footprint of the primary home with its own exterior entrance and must include a kitchen but can have a shared bathroom. And then it cannot be sold separately, but there is an exception to this with a nonprofit that can purchase the ADU but not the land under it. And I'll be having a slide about that. There's different types of ADUs, and so we can convert them out of the existing garage. They can be detached. They can be attached to the home. And then we mentioned also the junior ADUs. We don't see basement ADUs much in this part of the country, but that is also considered an ADU. There's a lot of benefits to ADUs. It increases affordable housing supply through gentle infill, and which is so exciting now we can actually have this count toward RHNA, the Regional Housing Needs Assessment. Many of our cities have been challenged to increase their RHNA by huge amounts. Ours is now over 9,000. that we have to supply in the next 8 years. So if they can include people's backyards, they'll really be able to come close to reaching that number. Housing relatives, keeping families together, and it really builds community if you have someone living close by that is not even a family member, but someone you just care deeply about. Creates passive income for the homeowner. And you can move yourself in and rent out the main house so it can age in place when you're ready to downsize. It provides property taxes to the city, so this is also very attractive to cities that are struggling, especially now. And construction can still go on during this crisis, believe it or not. That's one of those essential services that's still happening. It provides safety and as well as local contractors. Safety I mentioned, I'm going to go back to that because Jane Jacobs in her book about defensible space talked about how if you have enough density in a neighborhood with enough eyes on the street, it creates a lot of safety. And so that's why this is mentioned. Local excuse me, local contractors then are engaged, so it creates work locally, and it helps the environment. So I think let me see if I can get back down there. Not quite sure how to use this when the things fly in. So what I want you to do, if it doesn't actually say it, but I'm just going to tell you, if you have other reasons why you feel like ADUs are especially important to you, I'd like you to put that in chat and help us learn from each other today. I know several have already mentioned the importance of having a mother close by, and that's especially meaningful for me and Anthony right now, if we could do that. But so this is who we are as an organization. So we've been we're called Making Housing and Community Happen, and our local organizing effort is called the Greater Pasadena Affordable Housing Group. We've been doing this 20 years of housing justice work. We've been a nonprofit since 2018. We're faith-rooted. We've had many successes. You can go on our website and see pages of successes. Here's just a few. I should have added, I'll add one more. So advocated to have a housing department. We did not have one, and now we have an amazing department that's really helped us move forward dramatically in building affordable housing. The tenant protection ordinance was really more like a landlord protection ordinance. We got that changed. We've gone through several housing elements and combed through it in detail, even called the state not to pass it until it would come back to the city and they would put actual dates and deadlines for their goals, their housing goals, so we could hold the city more accountable. And in that more part, I just want to mention how exciting it is that we were able to get our inclusionary housing policy passed initially in 2001, which produced 577 units so far embedded in units in developments throughout the city. That's with 15% set aside. And we were able to increase that to 20% last summer, which is a huge win. The fee that developers can choose in lieu of including affordable units has been produced over 26 million for our city's Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and that's been leveraged to produce another 488 units. So it's a powerful success and just one beautiful policy that I feel like every city should be doing. I'm available to speak in cities to help people understand how to get this passed. We have monthly meetings, and our larger meeting kind of has reports of all our subcommittees. We also have small subcommittees. We have a homeless housing subcommittee. We're very proud that over 134 permanent supportive housing units were approved within the last 12 months. And we're anticipating at least 48 more shortly through the Civic Center proposal. So it's a huge win. We're thankful for all the advocates and all the prayer vigils and all the campaign to help make that happen. Those are That's what ends chronic homelessness, permanent supportive housing. Safe parking. We have a team that's been meeting for a year to create safe parking for those experiencing homelessness that live in their cars. Right now we have 2 sites that are being considered, that churches that are opening their parking lots. And so we're working on that. Church land, they have a strong committee that's helping churches with excess land to build affordable housing on their property. It's really a beautiful idea because there are churches that are really struggling. Let me go back. And they have excess land, and this is a way they can really stay in mission and offer their land. They still get remuneration for their land, but it's an ideal for developers because they don't have to purchase the land and also pay the carrying costs on that while through the pre-development phase. So we're working on a state law as well and local policy to fix the zoning so churches could do this. We're doing community development on North Fair Oaks with a number of churches up there, 10 churches that are in that network, and it's exciting. Several of those churches are wanting to build on their land. A liaison membership, this is our leadership development component. We now have 18 churches, and we have regular trainings now taking place to train our leaders and build that strong network. So I'm gonna see what I'm doing to keep flipping these around. I apologize. I'm not as familiar with this new technology. So one last thing, our longest committee is ADUs, and we've been meeting since 2003. It's taken on different forms, so I'm gonna give you a brief history of that. You can learn more about our work on our website, makinghousinghappen.com. Okay, now, this is our history with ADUs. In 2003, that's when AB 1866 was passed. That basically said that anyone in the state of California could build an ADU on their property, but it also gave a caveat that local jurisdictions could craft their local ordinance. And that's where cities all across the state created ordinances and made it almost impossible in some places to build them. And that was the case in Pasadena. We formed a team. We did 6 months of research. We crafted our reasonable proposal, including all the benefits we listed for second units. We looked at 5,000 square feet property size for attached square units, ADUs, and 10,000 for detached. We spoke at the Planning Commission. We had an African-American pastor, neighborhood association president, a rabbi, Muslim realtor, Baha'i leader. We had huge success. Everyone was in consensus on the Planning Commission. They loved what we were doing. They started talking about how they'd like to do this in their own backyards. Then when it came to the city council level, we failed miserably. There was 21 pastors there. We were there until after midnight, and they flipped everything to 15,000 square feet, initially barring ADUs from 2003 until 2017. Only one was built in the city during that entire time. Since 2003, up until 2017, it required a 2-car garage, 15,000 square foot lot. You couldn't see it from the street. It had to be 500 feet from another ADU. Only 20 allowed. And I understand that in Whittier, they also required a separate driveway going to the ADU. So a lot of ways that they actually came out and said on our city council, what can we do to stop this? And this is what they did. So, so over the years, we attended many city-sponsored workshops to change the onerous policy to no avail. We even looked at possible lawsuits twice against the city. And then in 2016, a strong team emerged, and we began to work with state lawmakers, realizing that local cities are just having a hard time with this policy. And so to do that, we created this fabulous comparative analysis, which I'll talk about. We had an intern from Fuller that helped us with that. And then in 2017, as you probably all know, we got stronger policies passed to make it possible. 2018, our team continued to work with state lawmakers to help pass more reasonable laws. 2019, we formed a team to address the challenges that still remain for ADUs. And so Lynn is on our call. He'll be talking in a minute, Pastor Lynn, and he would love to have you join us for our Pasadena ADU committee. So please talk to him if you're interested, if you're in the Pasadena area. And then, of course, you know, the new policies. And I'm having a hard time seeing the bottom of this, but I have some great language down there I want to share with you guys. Let's see if there's a way I can move this so I can see. Yes. So, so basically, the new policies took away local control, which is what our city was considering a lawsuit against the state because of that. But we say it now provided local control for homeowners. They can finally do what they want on their property. So, so I'm going to give you a brief, let's see, how do I go to the next slide? There we go. So in our comparative analysis, we were able to identify through our intern from Fuller all the illegal ADUs in the city of Pasadena. And so he found out that there were 740 that had been built in the history of our city. And they're part of our historical character of our neighborhood. And you can see here where they're all plotted throughout the city. They're not all concentrated in Northwest. They're also in the north part of the city, Northeast and South. And so we began to look at 3 neighborhoods. We chose one in the north, and then you can see the line through the middle of Pasadena, which is where the 210 freeway is, right in there. And so we also did a comparative analysis in the south and also in the northwest. And what we compared, because we kept hearing at the city council that we kept hearing, oh, it's going to create crime and it's going to create traffic and it's going to, you know, cause all these problems. Even some people saying it's going to cause urinating in the street and just over the top things. And there was yelling and screaming. It was quite amazing. And so what we found as we compared, and if you look at this comparative analysis, we did our own traffic studies. We looked at property values. We looked at all these different factors, crime, and there was absolutely no difference between streets with a high number of ADUs with maybe 90 ADUs compared to the next street over that had none. So we were helping to dispel myths that we were hearing at the city council. So I'm gonna now look at the sample in the Bible, which is really interesting. Even if you're not a person of faith, there's a fabulous example of Elisha and the Shunammite woman. So it says here that one day Elisha went on to Shunem, where a wealthy woman lived. Of course, you kind of have to be wealthy today if you're going to build an ADU. But she urged him to eat some food. So whenever he passed by, he would turn in there to eat food. She said to her husband, "Behold, now I know that this is a holy man of God who is continually passing our way. Let's make a small room on the roof with walls and put there for him a bed, a table, a chair, a lamp, so that whenever he comes to us, he can go there." So this model has been around for a really long time. So it's kind of cool little model, I think, that we can refer to if we're speaking to a church group. So what are we doing now? And this is where I want Lynn to jump in and provide an overview of what his committee is doing. So Lynn, are you on? Ready to speak?
Sure, yeah.
Thanks, Lynn.
Yeah, so I'm part of this.
Can you get a little closer to your computer? Your voice is pretty quiet.
The mic is right next to my mouth.
Speak up if you can, thanks.
So I'm part of this ADU subcommittee that of Jill's organization, and we're trying to figure out ways to overall make ADUs much easier and more accessible for the normal homeowner to design, build, and finance. We kind of think of ADUs as a way to crowdsource affordable housing. So we're excited about that possibility. So we want to make it more affordable for both the people who rent ADUs and the people who build them, to try to drive down the cost and the complexity for homeowners at every stage in the process. So our hope is that we could build several hundred, maybe 500 ADUs in the next 5 years. And we particularly hope that it's going to benefit lower income groups. And there's some particular subgroups that we've thought about, like transitional youth or seniors or community college students, many of whom don't are partially homeless. So we kind of think there's some different values that we bring to this. One is to try to make them more affordable for everyone by lowering the costs and through partnerships, like with organizations like Habitat for Humanity, and then potentially over time to be able to create economies of scale through arrangements with contractors, or even being partially modular designs where pieces of it could be built in mass off-site. So those are kind of some bigger, long-term dreams. We think that diversity is a value, that preserving a community that's ethnically diverse and socioeconomically diverse is a benefit of building ADUs. And then we think that sustainability is a way, it is a value, that if we're building ADUs that are environmentally sustainable, then that's a win all around. And so that we've looked at some designs that are net zero.
Do you all know what net zero means? That the unit itself is producing as much energy as it's using. So Len, this is some more text for you.
Yeah, so some potential ways to create affordable ADUs. In other words, to encourage and incentivize homeowners to build an ADU that will be rented to a lower income resident for some period of time, say 5 or 7 or 10 years. One is we're trying to partner with the city, and I don't know if this is on a different slide or not, but one of the things we're doing right now is we're meeting with the planning department of the city of Pasadena to potentially provide low or no cost ADU designs that can be downloaded from the city website. The County of San Diego is already doing this, and some other municipalities like Encinitas, where you can go to their planning department website, choose from a variety of ADU designs and sizes, download the full CAD files, and then give those to a contractor to bid or to build. And that, that again, just greatly, decreases the complexity and the decision making. It reduces some flexibility, but we hope that the win is big enough. On the city side, with some ways to try to lower the cost and time frame, or if the city, if you sign a covenant to say, I'm going to rent to a lower income person for X number of years, we're hoping the city would say, okay, we're going to expedite building permits and inspections for people who want to do this. And then an organization like ours, like GPOG or others, could partner with like folks like Habitat for Humanity, where the renter, the future renter, or other volunteer groups like churches could provide some volunteer labor to lower the construction costs. And then if it's a lower income person, then you partner with a social service organization, like in our case in Pasadena, Union Station, to provide wraparound services for those lower income renters. So that burden isn't falling on the homeowner as needs arise. So kind of a stretch goal would be like, if there could be enough interest in a model like this, then a new nonprofit could be established that would basically walk homeowners through the process of design, build, and then rent to a lower income person. So the homeowners not having to do all those steps on their own. So that would be great, and maybe even to provide low interest loans to folks who are willing to do that. So, and again, we're trying to think, how do you align the incentives to encourage homeowners to say, hey, yeah, this is not as big a risk as I thought. I'm not going to be on my own. Someone's going to walk with me. And then we're really providing, good, affordable housing to all kind of income levels. So, okay, I already mentioned this top one, to lower the cost, free downloadable ADU designs. There are websites that already do this. You just, where you can download some existing designs, but one advantage of having your municipality do it, like if Whittier did it, then they could do designs that are sort of appropriate and to the kinds of neighborhoods and the design aesthetic of your city. And one way we're thinking about doing that again with the city of Pasadena is I'm actually going to have a conversation with Monday with the chief planner about the possibility of doing a design competition where we'd invite local architects or even architecture students to submit designs for an ADU, and we would kind of have a judging process, and then winners of that competition, and maybe we could raise some funds to give a prize, and then those designs would become the ones that are available potentially on the city website. So we'd love to see that happen. Yeah, okay, and so it just says the pre-approved plans are a win for the city because their planning department doesn't need to go through these one-off designs. They've already seen and approved them. There still need to be inspections, along the way for electrical and plumbing and so forth. But at least in terms of the layout and the structural aspects, it greatly streamlines the process for them. So this is an example of the County of San Diego doing a pre-approved plan. Again, you can download that on their website. And I actually did that. I downloaded this and used those plans to get an apples to apples comparison between two different builders. So they could say, okay, here's how much it's going to cost, for contractor A and contractor B from the same set of plans, because oftentimes they will bid different things and not, include the same things.
So, I don't know if you want to mention anything about this, Lynn, before or there's a list here of a few more things from that you might want to mention.
Yeah, so briefly, I took that County of San Diego design, and one builder gave me an estimate this past January for $146,000 for a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, 600 square foot ADU, which works out to about $243 a square foot. So that was, and then the other bid I got a little after that was $154,000. So, 240 to 250 a square foot, at least here in this area. Financing an ADU, there's definitely complexity around that, and this is where homeowners can also get bogged down. There are many ways to finance it. A cash-out refinance is if you have equity, right? That's kind of the key. For many people would be the way to go because you get a fixed rate over 15 or 30 years like a traditional mortgage. So you'd refinance your existing house, add in the extra $150,000 or $200,000 for the ADU. Again, if you do a garage conversion, it's going to be far less. To do an ADU, maybe more like 75 to 90, something like that. Or a HELOC, home equity line of credit, that's a higher adjustable rate, but you can kind of tap in the money as you need it. Like as those contractor payments come in, you can dole it out, and then you're only paying interest on that money that's been distributed to that point. A construction loan, which would get you through the building process, and then you would do a traditional refi once the structure is built. So the one that's probably what I was gonna, I hope to do is to get a HELOC while it's being constructed, because you get a lower interest rate and you're paying simple interest rather than compound, and then you do a refi after that. So I don't want to get into too much complexity, but those are realities of figuring this stuff out. and then renting the ADU, that would be potentially residents who are called Section 8, who receive vouchers from the government that pay a portion, so that the landlord, the homeowner, is paid by the government a portion of the rent. So the renter pays a percentage of their income, and then the balance is made up by the federal government's Section 8 money.
Thank you so much, Lynn. That was really helpful. We'll have a question and answer period at the time, but I know you may need to leave. I don't know. Are you going to be available for the Q&A?
Yeah, I think I'm going to probably need to drop off here.
Okay. Does anyone have a question or two quickly for Lynn before we go on to Habitat's presentation? Okay. Well, thank you so much, Lynn. The next slide talks about our ownership of ADUs, and I'm not going to go into detail here, but this is one of the new state policies that Habitat got passed, allowing a nonprofit to actually own the ADU. It's not subdividing the lot. It's not owning of the land. It's owning just of the ADU. And so you can read that later, but I want to get moving forward with Habitat to take, we're running just a little bit short on time, so if you could try to keep your comments to within 5 minutes, Grant, and introduce yourself, I'd appreciate it.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
My name is Grant Power. Jill, thanks so much for inviting me to be part of the meeting today. And I work with San Gabriel Valley Habitat for Humanity, and it's my pleasure to be able to speak with you briefly today about some activities that Habitat is doing in San Gabriel Valley in relation to ADUs. Our mission is to increase and provide new opportunities for affordable home ownership for low-income families in different areas around the San Gabriel Valley. We have an interest and a commitment to working with partners on developing ADUs, as we see ADUs as a critical part of meeting the affordable housing need across San Gabriel Valley. Our emphasis in our project work is in the area of creating opportunities for home ownership. And so ADUs are still a bit new to us, because up until now they are primarily or exclusively rental units. However, we do see ADUs as playing a key part in our work in the future. And in particular, we're excited about the possibility of building ADUs that can be separately owned by the people who live in them. So what I've done here is provided a couple of examples of projects that are emerging, that are now in a proposal stage, and wanted just to have a chance to walk you through them so you can see what things we are doing in the area of preparing to build ADUs in San Gabriel Valley. We're learning as we go, as this is still new to us, but we believe that these examples can anchor or provide concrete solutions for affordability in San Gabriel Valley. So in the first example in Pasadena, City of Pasadena has engaged us to build one ADU unit on city-owned land. What we have proposed is a 350 square foot one-bed unit. And the intent here is that the ADU will allow the city to provide room for one more resident in a larger property that houses homeless people. Construction for this unit is provided through a private grant provided directly to Habitat. And after construction, the unit will be owned and run as a project by the City of Pasadena. The city will contract with Union Station to provide wraparound services to a new resident who will live in the ADU. and is coming out of homelessness. So we see in this example a potential model for cooperation between a developer like Habitat and a local jurisdiction like City of Pasadena to add value or to augment a program in social services addressing the needs of people who are homeless. This ADU will be a rental ADU and will be run as part of a larger number of units that are similar, but in a house that already exists on that same property. So that's what I have to say about this particular model in Pasadena.
Thank you so much. I'm asking right now for everyone that wants, I've been reading the chats, and for everyone that wants to have this, what Grant just shared with us and all the other slides, please provide your contact and I'll make sure that you have this presentation. So I'm really excited to what Habitat is doing. And I'm also really excited about, let's see, how do I go to the next one? Oh,
here it is.
did you want to, I'm sorry, I didn't realize there was 2 slides. Okay.
No problem. This is just another example of an ADU that's proposed that we are hoping to build in the city of Alhambra. It's the same idea in terms of a structure of a small house on the back of a residential lot that's a single family. In this case, however, the city has a very different role. This is considered or planned to be a project of Habitat for Humanity, not necessarily of the city. In this case, Habitat would be purchasing a lot that has a 700+ square foot house already existing on the back. And our intent in this particular project would be to convert the house that already exists into an ADU and build another house that would be considered the main house on the property, on the rest of the property, on the land that's in front of the ADU. Now this, in many ways, resembles what we consider to be a somewhat traditional type of Habitat project, because after building the new house and creating the ADU, we would like to sell them together as a package to a low-income family. The city's role in this particular case would be to contribute money in the form of a second lien or a silent lien that would help us cover the cost. When done, the main house, which is going to be owned by a low-income family, will have affordability restrictions written into the deed. And the ADU is intended and will be restricted so it can be rented to a low-income family as well. The ADU in this case will become a rental unit owned by the low-income family that is residing in the main house. In this project, Habitat would be the mortgage lender and would be responsible for monitoring the deed restrictions to ensure affordability of both the front house and the ADU going forward. So in this case and the case in Pasadena, there are details or elements of the project that we are trying to fashion in such a way that an ADU can not only be built, but occupied and continue to function in servicing or providing a shelter for a low-income family long-term. We're still learning a lot as we get into this space, and as I mentioned earlier, as we progress and we see opportunities to build ADUs that are specifically possible to be owned, this will free us up to do even more in the ADU space. That's all from me for now, Jill.
Thank you so much. Are you going to be able to stay to the ends in case people have questions for you?
I have about 20 more minutes.
Okay, that's perfect. That's great. Okay, I'm going to do a brief overview of some of the new state laws. It says 14 minutes. We don't have that much time, so I'm going to try to do this quickly in about 5 minutes. So hold on to your seats. So the new state laws, There's now no impact fees, that what we call a park fee in our city for ADUs that are less than 750 square feet. If it's larger ADUs, they're charged a fee based on the ratio of the primary dwelling unit and ADU. There's now no minimum lot size requirement. Remember, I mentioned 15,000 square feet. Now anyone can do this. In all parts of the city, they must be allowed unless there's findings for water, sewer, traffic, and public safety. So in our city, they're looking at hillsides, preventing. They can't say it's hillsides. It has to show findings that it's one of those reasons, like to prevent a fire truck, for example, from being able to get up there. No additional parking can be required of garage conversions. And if it's a detached ADU, you can't require parking on site if it's less than half a mile from public transport. And public transport is defined as something that charges fees, set fees, fixed routes, and available to public. So like the bus and the train. Here in Pasadena with the Gold Line coming through our city, that means almost anyone in our city can do this. I don't know how that works in Whittier. Most setback requirements are reduced to 4 feet, which is wonderful for being able to utilize the land. Homeowners associations cannot prevent ADUs from being built. This new state policy clarifies when ADUs can be built in a garage, carport, or covered structure. A junior ADU can be built on the same property as an ADU. So essentially you can have 2 ADUs on a lot now. But with a junior ADU, it requires homeowner occupancy. This is no longer a requirement for a detached, if you have a detached or a garage conversion. This reduces the approval time for junior ADUs from 120 to 60 days. So cities have to respond quickly. Permitted ADUs, I'm still learning about that, but I think from the 2017 laws, you essentially were able to, I think they gave 5 years grace to get those up to par to become legal. And then housing elements now must incentivize and promote junior or ADUs, and that can offer alternative rents and a list of state grants and financial incentives. So I talked with Greg Nicholas at the State Housing Department, Housing and Community Development Department yesterday, and I asked him if he has this list of state grants and financial incentives. He says, no, Jill, we don't have to have that done till the end of the year. And I said, well, why don't you try to speed up? It'd be great because a lot of people would love to know where these grants are and financial incentives. So I think I did it within the time I said I was going to do it. You're probably a little overwhelmed by that list. The city of Pasadena, there's a lot of great resources out there, so I wanted to make sure you have this list. The city of San Jose has done an excellent job of making it really clear how to access building an affordable housing, building an ADU. So I would hope that cities across the state would emulate their process. It's very attractive and simple to use compared to many other cities' processes. There's also a pretty clear process in the city of Clovis. So they've done a great job also of encouraging and incentivizing what they call cottage homes. City of Pasadena, that's our regulations. They're still needing to be worked on. But I put here for the state government, the site for accessory dwelling units, there's a really nice PowerPoint that you can watch. Make sure it's not the one from 2016. Drop down and go to the more recent one toward the end. So I'm going to just give the time now, the next until 1:30 for questions and answers. So feel free. I'm going to look at chat initially, see if there's something here that we've already maybe gotten. Questions that you have. Not finding chat. There it goes. There we are. Yeah, it says, when will Habitat come to Whittier? Can you answer that one, Grant?
This is Grant. San Gabriel Valley chapter has service boundaries, unfortunately not extending to Whittier, but that does not mean there is no chapter that presently is working in the Whittier area. I just need to do some homework on that, and I can get back to the group with information.
Someone asked about the city of Ontario, Canada. That's interesting. Maria, do you know something about their city? I'm curious about your question.
It's Ontario, California. Hi, this is Maria.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not Canada.
Okay. So are you living in Ontario?
Yes, I am living in
Okay.
Ontario. I
Okay.
previously lived in Whittier, for a long time, volunteer of several organizations there, and now I'm in Ontario and in my mid-50s preparing for aging in place and retirement. So
Oh,
this
that's
is
bad.
very time efficient.
You might need to work with your city and get a team together like we have and like they have in Whittier to start moving these policies forward and making it easier if you, if they aren't already simplified. But would you keep in touch with us as you work with your city and what you're learning? I think it's really important that we all learn from each other.
Hey, Jill.
Yes.
Sorry, this is Allison Henry with Everyone In. I just wanted to also just give a quick response to Maria. Maria, if you're interested in just moving housing policy in general in the Inland Empire, two things. One, Rancho Cucamonga actually passed an eviction moratorium for COVID-19 last week, which is amazing since it's in San Bernardino County and not what you would say at the forefront of progressive politics. But as a resource or contact, and I'll send this to you as well, but in your area, I would also reach out to the Pomona Job Center because a lot of people who work in Pomona live in Ontario. And then I would also connect you to a housing group in Claremont because a lot of those cities out there are intertwined. Thanks.
Thank you.
So I'm curious as to what, they're not part of LA County, right? Or they are?
Ontario?
Uh-huh. Is that still LA County?
No, San Bernardino.
San Bernardino County, yeah. So I know San Bernardino in the past has done some pretty creative things around even eminent domain to try to address affordable housing. I don't know if they still have people in their council of governments in their city that are doing some out of the box ideas, but please keep in touch. I'd like to learn from you. There's a question here about, is Metro obligated to fund ADU through Measure M? I have no idea, Beatriz. What an interesting question. Does anyone know the answer to that?
Well, I have that partial knowledge about the Metro M, but I think so they need to fund some housing around metro stations to facilitate like transportation. I don't know what is the name, but it's funding housing and affordable housing. But I'm not sure.
Interesting. Yeah, it'd be interesting to explore that. I know that Metro is definitely involved in seeking to address the homeless crisis. I know the person who's in charge of that for all of LA County. And they require 35% of any Metro land to be affordable. But usually they're trying to promote higher density housing close to Metro, so I'd be surprised if they'd be involved in ADUs. Let's see, let me go up to see some of these other questions. Please tell us about the impact of property taxes on a 750 square foot or larger. Great question, Carol. That's a really specific question that I'm not sure without research we could really answer, but it is a good question. I know that there was one person in Pasadena who wanted to build an ADU, and she actually research what the property tax would be on her lot. And it was surprisingly low. It was not that much extra. So don't be alarmed about what they could be until you really find out. David, has Pasadena seen proposals to add ADUs to multifamily developments under the new state law? Again, David, that's an excellent question. I have a friend who's an architect and she lives in a multifamily zone and she is looking to build another ADU on her property. She already has one. And so she's excited about the laws allowing that. But I'd have to ask our housing department, actually it goes through planning. I'd have to ask David Reyes if that's the case. I don't work for the city. I'm actually a missionary and executive director of our nonprofit, so which is called Making Housing a Community Happen. Has Pasadena seen proposals? Okay, that was your question. Can junior ADUs be detached? No. Junior ADUs have to be completely within the footprint of the primary home. That's what defines a junior ADU. They have an exterior entrance, and they have to at least have a kitchenette. They're not required to have a bathroom. They can share that with a primary house, but they're definitely not detached. Can it be a garage conversion? No. Let's see. Can I have a stove, a gas stove? Boy, these are really detailed questions. Good questions. A lot of these are going to happen when you go to your city. But I tell you, it's so important that you learn what the state laws are before you go to your city, because a lot of cities are not up to speed on the state policies. So I gave you that link to the state housing department, and I provided some of the basics on this presentation. But years ago in 2003, I kept seeing a couple go to the city council. I saw them all the time and I said, hey, what brings you guys here? And they said, oh, we want to build an ADU and the city won't let us. And I go, really? I said, it's actually legal. And they said, no, they tell me it's not. And I said, no, I'm going to print out all the paperwork and you can show that to them, that it's actually legal. So they brought that to the city and they got a little nervous and they said, actually, you're right, you can build this. So sometimes cities just don't know, or maybe they're intentionally not knowing, I don't know. But, and yes, you asked the question about owner occupancy for junior ADUs. No, that is a state requirement. You cannot waive that. So good questions. Well, I think our time is up. If you have further questions, I don't know, Megan, how do you want to do this?
Well, that's a good question. I think that we all have your email address, but we'd all like to benefit from the answers to the questions other people ask. So maybe we could have an email thread with everybody that is on this chat. Would that be okay?
It's hard to get responses, isn't it?
I mean, you can unmute yourselves, or you can chat.
Yeah.
But if you've shared your email and chat and you don't want to be on an email thread, please let us know. Message me privately, whatever you want.
Okay. I just want to say a huge thanks to you. I'm having trouble showing this slide, but if you can see it, thank you for being part of addressing our housing crisis. Thank you for every person on this video today, and doing your part in helping families, your families, stay in place and be housed, especially during this crisis. And if you want to learn more about how we pass the 20% of all new housing to be affordable, I put B twice there, in terms of our inclusionary, please invite me to speak and other topics. Here's my contact information for you. So again, I just am so thrilled and honored to have been with you today and invited to do this presentation. God bless you all. Thanks.
Thanks so much for coming and speaking to us.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm not going end the chat just yet because I'm gonna save what everybody is commenting. All right.
Megan, do you have time to also look at the contacts for everyone on the page and
Yeah, I'm just copying all of that and I'm putting it in a separate document so I can.
okay.
Okay.
I'm more than happy to send this email or this PowerPoint separately if you want to attach that, or they can just
Yes.
use the
That would be great.
the video or both. But if they have the actual presentation, they can take and use this if they want and adapt it for their own cities. So
My one question for you was, while I'm copying and pasting, can Homes for Whittier work with your organization on our project to present a policy proposal to the city of Whittier?
for ADUs,
Yes.
you know, we're more than happy to share what we have in our past work, and with a team as kind of a resource, you know, kind of a an advising role.
Yeah.
We don't have the capacity to really do the work, but we're
Not the work. Just check in and say, how
Yeah.
about this? Or what, can you send us some stuff that you've already put together?
Yes, we're more than happy to do that. Thanks.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay. All right. If everybody's had their chance to comment, I'm going to go ahead and end our meeting.
And, you know, I think one thing, I know those that are still on the call, if you have any feedback for us and evaluating how it went, I forgot to put a slide for that at the end, but it's always very helpful to get feedback on what worked on this presentation and what didn't, and how you can use this presentation in your own networks. So you might keep chat just another minute for any feedback, if you don't mind, on evaluating our time.
Yeah. And there might be some topics in the future that you had mentioned in our emails before this that we could bring back and get into more depth once people actually start their projects at home, or when more people in the community get wind of this great resource and want to access it too.
Well, I think our ADU committee is more expert on the details. I'm the executive director and I trust their research and what they're doing. They're both, two of the people on that committee are both building ADUs themselves. So they understand it, especially with this city, you know, how to navigate it. But every city is going to be so unique. It's just, it's all across the board. Yeah.
And it's a unique time.
Yes. So one thing that excites me the most is that they can use these for RHNA, Regional Housing Needs Assessment. And that's really going to help cities encourage ADUs, especially if the state.
If they can get it done this year, that's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if they could really come up with all this funding that's been passed for housing, if they could divert that into ADU grants, so all of us could be contacting Greg Nicholas at the state from the links I shared with you. I'm glad to share his email as well, and just say, hey, let's get those grants moving forward. We can all access.
Good idea. I like that. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead. I think we've got all of our feedback here. Thanks everybody for attending today. Thanks again, Jill, and thank you for bringing your wonderful presenters as well with you. This has been.
Thank you, everybody.
Really
Thank
helpful.
you.
All right. Bye.
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 Bye, everyone.
Bye, Beatriz.
Bye, Beatriz.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
Allison.
Thanks for a great presentation. Thank you, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
Oh, thank you. Who said that?
Allison, I turned my
Oh,
camera
thanks,
on.
Allison. Thanks.
Yeah, this was really great, Jill. This was, you know, bringing all of you guys together, and that includes everyone on this call. This was amazing, and yeah, thanks.
Thanks for your encouragement. I appreciate that.
Love you, Jill. All right, have a good weekend, everybody.
Okay.
Okay,
Love you
you
too.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.